Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining the session this evening. We're going to be working on the Astrocast site again for the next couple of hours. And if you've been following along, the current Astrocast site probably looks a little different than what it looked like about a week ago. While I was away for PHP Central Europe, I tried to do a couple of things, kind of background stuff that wasn't necessarily super interesting or exciting, but definitely some big changes. Um, the big thing that I'll probably take care of right now is I've enabled the register button. So if you go to astrocast.com now and go to any of the pages, you'll actually see a register button. I'm going to actually log in because I have a proper username and password now, which I haven't logged in on this machine since I've been back. So now I'm actually logged in. I'm going to save it. I'm going to switch to a different screen so I don't do anything weird with the viewership stats. So you can see I have a picture now, so you can actually see the gravatar. If you've ever been to my talk on bundles, it's kind of fun because I've actually now, let's see here, well, look in the file itself. Car, there we go. I'm actually using the Gravatar bundle in order to be able to do this. So I've given a talk on how this package sort of wasn't super exciting for me back in the day because it was all of the Gravatar functionality that I wanted, but it was stuck inside a Symfony bundle. And well, now I'm actually using it. So I guess that's kind of an interesting little bit of irony. Something else I had on my long-term list of things to do was to use, looks like I took it off my list because I actually implemented it, is to integrate with Headway app. If I click on this, we'll see that there's some things that it's actually showing on here, which is pretty cool. And then the little indicator goes away. I did actually spend some time working with TurboLinks. I think I'm not going to do anything with that, at least for a little while. Part of it was because I actually had issues with Headway app. I was able to get this actual widget to not reload every time when I would navigate to different files, but for some reason the actual listener stopped working on additional pages. So if I loaded a page like the About page, I could click the button, get the functionality from Headway app, and then if I clicked another page, I would lose the actual pop-up here. So it would just be a dead link. So that was kind of annoying. The other thing was that the intercom widget down here, every time I would switch to pages, it would still do this functionality where it would hide and show itself. And I wasn't able to really fix that. So given I don't actually have a persistent thing on the screen at this point, I didn't want to fight with that anymore. So I've marked that as done for now. And if you're curious about the Headway app, it's actually a public status page sort of thingy. So if I click on this, I can go look at the public change log. So this isn't so much actual like feature releases and things like that that would be like a blog post worthy thing. This is just a little bit of notification so that if something has changed on the site, then it would actually be be able to notify new users that something's changed. So one of the big things that has changed is the fact that this registration functionality has been pushed live. That just involved quite a bit of experimenting and tweaking of templates and stuff. So I'm actually going to do this on my local version because this workstation didn't actually come with me on my trip, so it doesn't have any of the data in it. So I'm going to go ahead and go through the registration process, and in the meantime, I'm going to open up Mailtrap because in my local instance, it's going to be sending it to Mailtrap. So let's go ahead and flush all of the messages, and then I'm going to try and log in. So I'm going to use a proper email address now. What had been the case before was that the super user admin user who I'd logged into the admin site with was a fixed username in the database or in the configuration files that was controlled by .env for the username and password. So if I pull up env, oh, this is the wrong project. Let's open up that podcast. Nope, it's not what I wanted. Sorry. Let's project Astrocasts. And if I pull up .env, what we'll see here is that I actually had a username and password here. But that's not going to be the case anymore. I removed this functionality so that I could actually be a proper first-class user within the system. So I'm going to use my email address. I'm going to use Beau Simensen as the username and password here. So I'm going to click register. Ooh, Messenger default transport BSN. Awesome. So let's go ahead and look at here. It looks like I also changed .dist. There we go. And verified. Awesome. Joe's in chat here, so I'm guessing he was my first actual user to log in with this functionality. I'm gonna go back to here. So I actually had the old DSN. So let me copy this, and we're gonna go Messenger what was it again here? Actually, I'll just copy those because it's just going to use the default. So one of the things that I had on my list was to create event-specific message queue and a command-specific message queue. And I actually did some of that work in the process of publishing live some of these features. The problem was that I realized that for each one of these, I was going to have another worker process on Heroku. And I didn't want to spend $14 instead of just an additional $7 so that I could be a purist and have specific message queues for each. So what I ended up doing was falling back and just have this default transport. So I want to see if I'm in a weird state now in my database because it actually, oh yeah, I am. Interesting. All right, so verified email address. So it created this user even though I don't have the ability to verify it. So I'm not going to worry about that right now. So if I go back here, I should be able to log in. And all right, so it's logged me in, picked up my avatar from Gravatar, and I'm no longer able to visit admin because admin requires an admin user credentials. So I copied some code or copied some functionality ideas from Friends of Symphony user bundle and gave myself the ability to promote users. So let's go bin console app. Let's see what we have. So we have app user promote Beau Simensen, and we're going to do role admin. Oh. All right, so user's been promoted. I did a little bit of functionality here so that it's going to say, you know, if you have a user that's already there, that's role admin, it's not going to try and do it again. And then I also have the ability to remove that. I don't really plan on doing this to too many users. It was really just needed to be there for the first user that I set up for myself. But eventually I may have moderators and things like that. So it'll be nice to be able to promote people to moderator later. However, in the meantime, I should now be able to go to /admin as my user after I log out. This is one of the things with the Symfony access control stuff is that it already has an idea of who I am. So it has cached my role from when I logged in. So I have to log out first to get my new credentials or my new access control. So we'll go back to my actual user, log in, now I should be able to go to admin, and it's still, oh, actually I have to log in correctly. So let's see here. All right, now it's redirected me to /admin. And I have some additional things on here that I didn't before, including user. So we can see all the users that I have logged in. If I go to Astrocasts live site, I believe I should be able to see Joe. So we see Joe here. He's role user. Default time zone is UTC. Yeah. The other thing that I pushed live as a part of these changes are that there's actually some content here for browse. So browse now shows the actual episodes. So we can see the first session from rewriting that podcast was getting started with Symphony Flex. We can click on that and actually see this video. So I have probably at least a dozen or so additional pieces of content that I need to upload to the live site because this only goes through September 26th, but I don't know, there were probably at least another dozen or so episodes between then and now. We also have the live sessions tab up and running, and this actually breaks down the projects. So we can see that the current projects that are running is rewriting that podcast. If we click on that, we can see which episodes have been put here already, along with a little bit of information. Same thing with bootstrapping Astrocasts. We can get an idea of what this project was about, and I only have one episode posted so far for that. I also have recent sessions. So if you're on the live sessions section, you'll be able to see a couple of the live sessions, and then you can browse or click to browse all of them. Eventually, I want this site or this part of the site to be a little more searchable and filterable. I want to add some like tags and things like that, so you'd be able to look for episodes that feature Tailwind or episodes that feature event sourcing. So you'd be able to see those sorts of things. But for right now, this gives you essentially like a RSS feed or a river feed, which should always show you the most recent episode that's available to watch on VOD after a live session is completed. The reason that I want to be able to have this whole distinction between live sessions and other things is that eventually I want to do courses. So courses are going to be more polished things that I'm going to do offline and then eventually publish more as a video series, if you will. Instead of these sort of one-off little episodes, like or the live sessions are sort of unscripted, real-time, interacting with people in chat and things like that. So eventually this browse is also going to be able to let you see not just the live sessions, but also sort through course episodes and courses themselves. So this is another thing that's sort of different from before. It's actually got some content on it now, which is pretty nice. So if we go back to something like the schedule page, it tells you the live session is starting any second now. But the home page shows you, I'm going to try and pause this here. So the home page shows you a schedule like Monday to Thursday from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. What I'd really like to be able to do is once you've set up your account, I want you to be able to control the time zone that things are shown in. So the default, if nobody has set, or if you're either an anonymous user or if you haven't set a time zone, I want the default to be to show US Central Time. If you're logged in and you've set your preferred time zone, I want it to be able to show it in your preferred time zone. Same thing for pretty much everything else that shows anything time related. So we can see that this session 2 for navigation with Tailwind was September 25th at 4 p.m. If you were watching this from France, or if your time zone is in France, then I would want this to actually show the time that it would have been in that actual. Joe says Central Time is best time, which is something that I agree with because it makes my life a lot easier. I've actually been dealing with interesting time zone related things over the last couple of days because I just got back from Prague. Most of Europe did their switch for daylight savings time, winter time, or whatever it is, this last weekend. So I just went through fall back over there. And we here in the States, including US Central Time, won't switch until this coming Sunday. So I had all sorts of weird things on my calendar that I had meetings planned with people in France for 9 a.m. Um, but it's actually 10 a.m. Because I think it was 4 p.m. in Paris. Well, 4 p.m. in Paris is now an hour later. Um, so this week, my 9 a.m. meetings are actually supposed to happen at 10. uh, and then again, next week, they'll switch back to 9. I've also been doing some webinars for Blackfire. So if we look at these, the ones that I had today were a lot of fun because the session that's intended for European folk, I intentionally scheduled in UTC. So today, my usual meeting starts at I think this 2 p.m. time, or 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. For me right now is I think 7 a.m. No, 8 a.m. But since my time zone is going to change, um, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, between these two things, normally these sessions, the U.S. session and the UTC session, are a certain number of hours apart. Now they're actually further apart for a week, and then they go back to normal. So anyway, time zones are a ton of fun. So I'm probably going to hate the fact that I want to intentionally make these time zones optionally set by the logged in user, but that's just the way it's going to be. The other thing that I wanted to be able to do eventually is to let users choose their preferred service for watching the live video on the site. Right now, I have it set to Twitch just because Twitch is where it's at. However, I am actually broadcasting to YouTube and Facebook as well. So if people are tuning in from YouTube, and that's their preference, I just as soon show the YouTube version here instead of the Facebook version or the Twitch version. So that's actually one of the things I wanted to work on tonight. So when I'm looking at the things I'd like to do, I'm thinking about doing my settings, adding a my settings page. So this is going to involve the Symfony form component. But I'm also thinking about doing progress, being able to track progress. Now that I have the content available for these, I'd like for people to be able to see that they've completed the first 3 sessions or the first 2 sessions, and that they're halfway through session 3. We had started creating the progress model at one point, but we ran into problems with the maker bundle because the maker bundle looked at user and said, hey, that's a reserved name. It's like, well, okay, I know it is. There's a way around that. But it just might mean that we have to do that, this particular association with the user model manually and not be able to do it through the maker bundle. The other thing that I had up here, I already kind of hinted at it, was this RabbitMQ being able to create queues for each specific type. I just want to look real quick and show what that ended up looking like here. So we'll look at messenger.yaml. And the way that this was going to work is that I created a new class, or a new interface called event. And if we look at event, let's see here, it's just an interface. So it's just a marker interface. It's not actually providing any functionality. It's just a way to allow us to do message routing to a specific queue based on the fact that these specific messages are either implementing the event interface or the command interface. And then what we can do is switch this to map these to the appropriate message transport. And then we had a default message bus set up, which was a little weird because I didn't want to pick a default, but for some reason the bundle wouldn't let me not define it. I didn't want a default because I want things to explicitly be either a message or a command. So just for completeness sake, I created a default um, transport just with the AMQP name. AMQP was the default name that was expected to be here for the command to actually consume the messages. Um, anyway, after I figured out that this was actually going to involve me having to run two separate consumers, which I figured was the case, but I thought maybe I would be able to use the messenger component to specify, let's see here, messenger, um, consume messages. I thought I would be able to specify multiple queues to look at, but it only gives you the ability to choose one receiver. So it's only going to be able to tie into one of the queues. So anyway, I ended up pulling all of this functionality back and commenting it out to be used later, and instead went back to setting up routing for any message that comes through is going to be routed through the default name, which was AMQP, which is using the messenger default transport DSN. I probably should have just done this, and then I wouldn't have run into that exception earlier. But I'm a little weird when I do some naming stuff because naming is hard. So that's where this was. So I'm actually going to go and remove these ideas from the list because I don't want to support this. And I'm going to call the queue part done because this is actually in the production environment now. So it's fully set up and running. For registration, I made it look pretty for the most part. So I'm going to be done with the registration stuff for now as well. And I'm actually going to remove the sub bits from this. So I think that the more interesting thing here might be looking at progress. And we can see how far we can get into the progress today, and then go into my settings if this either gets boring or we get stuck or we manage to get finished with it before 10 o'clock tonight. So let's go ahead and pop back into here. I don't think we have the progress entity anymore. I think we removed it. Yeah, so let's go ahead and add that now. Oh, I guess one other thing to take a look at. I decided to work a little bit on the default settings on the admin configuration. So I've changed the order of the things shown in here because these are the things that are more important to me. So everything is going to come at the project level, and the next level is going to be sessions. So I've manually picked the columns that I want shown here. So now it's easier to see bootstrapping Astrocasts, session 1, and then you can click straight into the video to go into the video, and then schedule broadcast and broadcast times. If we look at video, it's focusing on just the title, the Vimeo ID. I'm actually listing these, and they don't have commas anymore, which was really annoying to me. And then we can also see the project and the session ID from here as well. I also figured out how to hide and show some of the actions. So I don't have delete showing anywhere at the top level here. So you can't accidentally try to delete something right away. So you can click into show if you just want to look at what the code looks like here. And then you can also look at edit and actually edit things if you want to. Adding, let's see, add a project. Still has the slug. I thought I removed that. Maybe I didn't for some reason. Maybe it was on video. No, interesting. Okay, I'm not sure what that was, but I thought I had made it so that it doesn't ask you for the slug anymore, because otherwise you have to specify a slug manually, which is just kind of annoying because it's going to override it with whatever you do, because it's going to override it based on the name you put in. So I really wanted to find a way to start being able to add things to the admin interface more efficiently, and just show the things that are actually important right now. Let's see if we look in the easy admin configuration, we can get an idea of how this looks. You can actually specify the fields. This was something that was helpful as well, For the video, it allows you to specify the fields just by specifying the field, and you don't actually have to specify all of the bits if you just want to use the defaults for that column. So in this case, title, I just wanted to show it as normal, but for the video property, I actually wanted to, for the Vimeo ID property, I actually wanted to treat it as a string. So and then for the properties, I can specify deep nested properties. This is how I'm able to show on a video the session project name. And it actually shows those, which is helpful. And this is where I add the show action. This is where I remove the delete action. So for any of the values that are on by default, you just prefix them with a dash to remove them. All right, so this is where we're at. So let's go ahead and sort of reproduce the problem that I had before with the maker bundle. Bin console make entity, and we'll call it progress. All right, new property name. So here's what we're going to do, user. Okay, so I'm going to try and see if I can use the backtick here and see if it doesn't completely break everything. If it does break things, then I'm just going to skip adding user. Let's see. User's not a valid PHP property name. All right, so I'm just going to avoid doing user to begin with. Let's see which fields we had. So we want video, field type. Why is that backslash there? Let's try it again. All right, so let's do video, entity, or relationship. There we go. What class, app, entity, video. All right, and then we want to do each progress relates to one video. Each progress relates to many video objects. It's one video, and each video can relate to many projects, or many progress. So I think that's the case because one video can be watched by multiple people, which is where the progress comes in. So we're going to do many to one. Is progress video property allowed to be null? No. Do you want to add a new property to video so that you can access update progress objects from it? I don't think so. Add another property. So we also want percentage. Vimeo percentage. Let's see what their API looks like. So how to embed a YouTube video responsibly. CodePen, food. See here, basic references. Let's see. All right, so autopath state. Events for text tracks, events for cue points, events for playback controls. All right, so progress, here we go. So duration and seconds, let's see. So what I need to do is figure out how I want to store this in the database, but I don't know if I want to store it as a float. Field type, doctrine, type, percent. is stored as a decimal, use this type. The data will be multiplied by 100 before being shown. Integer. If your data is stored as an integer, then use this option. The rough value 55 is shown. I guess if it's being stored as a fractional value like this, should be fine. All right, so we have decimal, main types, integer, small int. Numeric types. Stack Overflow, what do we got here? So equivalent, both types, equal standard. Type numeric can store numbers, very large numbers, and digits. Numbers with decimals, use decimal. Also types that can store decimal values. All right, I'm going to use decimal. See what that does. Precision would be 5. Multiply by 100, it would say in the percentage. So within a tenth of a second, so I don't know. I guess actually let's just do 5. Hope for the best. Scale number of decimals to store. 100 would be 2. I guess 3. Looks like it's doing 3 here, so we'll see. Can the field be null in the database? Let's say no. And I don't think we need any other property here. All right, so let's go see what this looks like now. So we'll go to progress. All right, so generated column ID, video, %. So we need a user here. So many to 1, users to I think this might be 1 to many because user, the video can have multiple progress and a user can have multiple progress as well. So I guess that's probably the same sort of relationship here. We'll do user, many to 1, referenced column name. Preserve case. All right, so this should allow us to set, no, user shouldn't be nullable. It should always have a value. Same thing with video. Really, the only thing that we're ever going to set is this percent, but we'll just leave this here for now. So I'm going to try and do doctrines, migration, diff, and see what we get. Reference for a relation from entity. Right, so let's go to session. Because the video ID, so join column, reference column name is video ID. It's not actually video. So where's video here? So the join column. Let's try again. All right. So how you doing, Joe? Did you have a good weekend? Good first day back at the office. All right, so create tab progress. It's a video ID not null, has a user ID not null. Numeric type 5.3 not null. And a primary key of ID. I think that's actually for initial immediate. Awesome weekend of watching StarCraft 2, Blackhawks hockey, and building IKEA furniture. What kind of IKEA furniture were you building? Because that can be awesome and it can also be not awesome. The conference was really good. I've been, unfortunately, kind of antisocial at some of these events these days. But the two talks I gave were a lot of fun. I've actually given them before. And I got decent feedback on one of them, but no feedback on another. So I think that in all, I found that some conferences, people are really good at giving feedback, and some other conferences, not quite so much. Chairs and bookcases. Bookcases were a pain, but they're beautiful with glass doors. That sounds awesome. PHPCE. Yeah, so, I mean, it looks like, some of the talks actually got a fair note, but note, this is the keynote from the first day, had a total of 7 comments, or 7 pieces of feedback. So not a lot, and I think that's probably the biggest number all in all. The keynote on Sunday got 5. Looks like the closing keynote got 8. So yeah, I mean, there's a ton of these that have gotten just 1 or no responses at all. I think my talks, one of them got no feedback, and the other one got 4. So I got decent feedback on this one, which I was pretty excited about. Yeah, I don't know. It really depends on the specific community, I think. And I haven't even noticed some conferences pushing it more than others. Or rather, I haven't seen that seem to matter. Some of the conferences, people don't really talk about it that much, and they still get a lot of feedback. And then they talked about it just as much as anybody else, I thought. The speakers all usually have something in their closing slide to tell people to rate their talks. And it just didn't happen, so I don't know. This is probably one of the last times I'm going to be giving either of these talks. So I need to come up with some new stuff for next year. I really think that my Symphony Flex talk, I think I could probably update that to be a little more interesting now. This version was more talking about the reasons why it exists and what it is, because at least early on it seemed like people weren't necessarily sure what Flex was and how it really worked and why it's even there. So this talk was more about that than actually using it to do things. But yeah, the conference was pretty good, but it was, there was a time change, and both going there and coming back, I ended up being for about 26 hours awake, which isn't a lot of fun. And I've found that over the last couple of years, my ability to adjust to time zones hasn't been very good. So I didn't sleep real well when it was actually supposed to be sleeping time, but I was also very tired um, right before I even started to sleep. So it was interesting. But yeah, the conference was cool. We got a new elephant. Let's see if I can. Well, I got a new elephant. I don't know if this was new this year or not. Um, but I've got a new PHPCE elephant, so it's a little darker blue than the one that I've had before this. So that was pretty fun. All right, so where were we? Let's see. So we want to get rid of this bit. Drop sequence, progress ID, sequence, cascade. I think the other thing I wanted to do was to create a unique index on this. So I'm actually going to remove this migration and create a unique constraint. Unique key, multiple columns. I think this is not what I want. So I think this is validation, right? Validates a particular field, so document data are unique. Fields. Well, I guess I'll try this and see. So unique entity is from Doctrine Bridge. No, this is a validator. Yeah, okay, so this is not what we want, I don't think. Let's see. Okay, so it looks like this is on the table, which sounds right. I kind of thought that might be the case. So ORM entity. Okay. So let's do ORM table. Unique constraints, and then let's see, so we got unique constraint. I don't know if I need to specify the name, so let's do, I think we might have to specify the name because the user is a special name, so let's do ORM unique constraint and specify columns. So we're going to do video ID and user ID, I believe. Let's see what happens if we do diff. Okay, so I missed something somewhere. Columns. Nesting on there sometimes isn't easy to find. So let's open this. All right, so create sequence, which is right. User ID, creating an index on video ID and on user ID, and then creating a unique index on progress for video ID and user ID. So the idea here is that there should only ever be one instance of a progress entry per user ID and video ID combo. And let's get rid of this. And actually, I've been doing this whole time. This is something I need to do for the other project as well. So I'm going to dig up some old code that I have and see how I can actually avoid having to do that. So I'm going to remove this migration and use this as my testing bed to make sure that my doctrine listener is working correctly. So doctrine, Postgres, diff, and schema public. And custom mapping types have changed. Because I have something that actually handles this somewhere. Always adds create schema. All right, so my workaround, waiting for a patch. Let's see if this is actually. Yeah. All right, so let's add this. So this is an event listener. I think we can bootstrap this with a maker bundle thingy. Let's see, make. Oh, actually, this is a doctrine event subscriber. So I don't think we can use that. So let's go ahead and do event listener. All right, we have an event listener. We have project Slugifier. So that's already there. So let's go ahead and go to create a PHP class. And we'll do. So this is working around a bug in Doctrine itself. Looks like it's actually a part of the diff tools. Is that determine existing schema, search paths. Essentially, after it generates the schema, post-generate, it needs to do some stuff. So if it's not a Postgres schema manager, return. So it's going to ignore it for any other type of database, which is useful. And then for each get existing schema paths as namespace. And if it doesn't have it, then create the namespace. So essentially, it'll look to see if public is there. And if it's not in the current schema's namespace, then it will add it. So I don't know. It works, and it fixes it. But yeah, so we're gonna go in here and do this. So we're gonna do implements event subscriber, just so that we don't ever have to do this anymore, because I'm tired of doing this a lot. So event subscriber, implement methods, get subscribed events. So we're going to use tool events. So this is only going to happen when some of the tools are run, specifically post-generate schema. And then we are going to just copy this in and just make sure that it all looks sane. All right, so generate schema events args is the event that comes in. So it gets the schema manager from the entity manager. And if it's not Postgres SQL manager, return early. Unhandled schema exception, I'm fine with that, just because we may not need to deal with it. So in theory, if this all works, what should happen is we no longer get that thing on the down that will always try to add the public schema. Before we do that, I need to double check our services.yaml file. Event listener. Okay, so we've already added app event listener to here, and anything in there is automatically going to be tagged as a Doctrine event subscriber. So these are different than the other extensions that we're looking at for Symfony event listeners and event subscribers. Those are already handled automatically, but these are not. Okay, so let's go ahead and see what happens if we try to do a diff now. All right. If all went well, I won't have that erroneous down anymore. Nope, we don't. So we won't have to worry about that anymore. It's just been an annoying thing that I knew how to fix. It just was going to be a pain to actually do it. But since I've done it probably half a dozen times or more, well, actually, no, I've probably done it several dozen times at this point for these two projects. So now it's just fixed from now on. So I'm going to actually run the migration, make sure that the migration actually runs correctly, and it does. So that's awesome. I'm not really sure how I'm going to handle this because I need to actually post this information somehow when someone's actually watching something. So if I go to, say, log in and look at, let's go live sessions. I don't actually have any of this data in here. I'm going to see if I can do my fixtures. So I loaded it up with some information, and this is going to remove my user. All right. Fine. I'm going to have to add my user to the to the fixture at some point. All right, redirects to slash. So I'm logged in. Let's see if the it's not actually going to send anything because I'm not consuming those messages. So in console, I think that's it. Receiver. Here we go. So I actually have two emails being sent now. There's the verify your email address. This was part of what I was working on before I launched. I wanted to actually work on the copy here a little bit. So thanks for registering with Astrocasts. Hopefully this is what Joe received. I think he said it was actually verified too, so that's awesome. And then I have click here to verify. And if we look at the URL in the bottom there, it actually is redirecting to the right site. So it's going to astrocast.test. So if I click in here, this I tried to make it look a little better, but I didn't spend a whole lot of time on it. Actually, I don't know if I did. I think these were all just exactly what I had set up originally. And then I also have an email sent to myself. New users registered with the username Beau Simensen. So this is just so that I can get an email to me anytime someone is signed up. And let me check my inbox offline here to see if I got an email when Joe registered. Thinking. Twitch. Yep, hello@astrocast.com, new users registered. So I did get an email when Joe registered, so that's pretty awesome. Another reason that I wanted to have this username stuff is another thing that I want to have on here. Cool. So it looks like Joe sent an email. Oh, did you? Okay, cool. So here's the thing that Joe just sent. So he got everything correctly, and I assumed the click here to verify worked because I think you said that you were actually verified, and I could actually check, I guess. But anyway, so that whole process is going well. But again, one of the things that I want to do is to add another tab up here for what is it? Discussions. So I want to have a forum set up, and I want to use discuss. No, discourse. That's what it is. Yeah, I'm still sleepy, so not typing things correctly. So one of the things I want to do is find a way to set up a discourse server, and I want to do OAuth with that. So OAuth 2. And I want to make sure that the only way you can log in with the OAuth stuff is to be able to log in directly with your Astrocast email or with your Astrocast account. So I want them to be tied together. And one of the things I read somewhere, I was very picky about wanting to make sure that you have people who are verified. It's not showing up. Here we go. No, verify email address. Okay. Anyway, the idea was that they wanted to make sure you used a verified email addresses only. Otherwise, it was going to require. It's just a big security concern. Search this topic for email. I don't know why I'm trying to do page search. It's not letting me do page search for some reason. Anyway, so that was the thing that I wanted to do, was to make sure that users wouldn't be able to log into Discourse using their account unless they had verified their email address. So there are other things that I want to do for having users here beyond just being able to choose time zone or whatever. The other thing is that what I'd like to do is create an actual forum thread or whatever they're called on Discourse. I'm not quite sure just yet, per episode, so that people could actually go and talk about each episode. So I want to get some like bidirectional API stuff working with Discourse so that I can make it a part of the whole experience. Because I don't really want to do like comments. I don't want to put comments on specific episodes, like using Discuss or anything like that. I'd rather actually have it go to like a full-fledged forum system where people can actually talk about other things as well, not just specific episodes. So that's kind of where that's at for now. Okay, so we have progress. I want to see how much of this stuff I'm able to do with the SDK here. So need to figure out how to get to the player events. So the basics, because I think you need to be able to attach to the player. So connecting to a Vimeo player, we have the iframe set up, script source URL, document query selector iframe, Vimeo player. We want that iframe. Console log played the video. All right. So what I think I want to do is take a look at that session. Session.twig. Okay, so what we have here is the Astrocast video itself. So this is what sets up this iframe. So what do we need to do on here? Essentially, I need to connect to this specific iframe. All right. Where am I getting the URL? So Player API player. So I'm just going to code this inline for now. So right after here, let's go here. All right, so document query selector. Let's just make this a little more specific. Whoa. I need to make sure that I know what that query selector does. It's a little unclear. So I know that there's the all version. I think this expects just one. Returns the first element with the document that matches the specified selector. Okay, so I think that's what we want. All right, so we're going to get specifically the iframe that exists inside an Astrocast video. We can create a player, so Vimeo Player iframe on play. I don't want on play, so that's where I can get more specific. So I'm going to go to, where was it, the events on progress? No. What was it called again? Play. Oh, okay, so it is progress. So let's do on progress, and it's going to be past data. And let's see if this shows us anything. All right. It doesn't appear to be doing anything. Let's go back to player.onPlay. All right. Let's check to see if it's actually getting an iframe here, because I'm guessing that could actually be why it's not working here. And the player just exits. Oh, that's there. That's interesting. So must be something else going on here. All right, let's go back to here. Ended, set playback. So this is about player events. Maybe there's something else that needs to be done here. So the easiest way is to reference it directly from a script tag. I think this might actually be something I'd like to do. All right, so using an existing player, wondering if there's something in here that is different. So if your web page already contains an embedded bit, you can ask the player through the SDK by passing the player element to the Vimeo player. Or you can create one, specify the video ID or URL as an HTML attribute. Why is this not working? API player. So it's getting the API player. All right, so let's go ahead and see if we can just get the SDK. So let's do oh. All right, so set all I need to do. Vimeo player. Let's see if that works. Okay, Vimeo is not defined. All right. That could be because it's deferred. So on load. Document.ready. Function ready. Okay, and then run. And then let's move this stuff into another function. This should allow us to see if it's at least a we should be able to see if this is something that's actually not available yet, or if it's just related to document order stuff. Uncount referent. Okay, so it's still not getting it. Let's do dist. All right, let's see if that works now. I thought I could just bring that in. but that might not actually be enough. That is a function. I can't tell what this is actually supposed to be doing. So if we bring the player in this way, let's see something you reference in your HTML with the script tag as usual. Only the value of the source attribute depends on your specific environment. Yeah. Okay. It's clearly not working though. So it's uppercase V. Let's see if I missed that, or if the uppercase stuff. Yeah, so like headway and intercom are going in, but those are coming from the outside. The web component stuff, I actually don't know if that's coming in that way. So that shouldn't matter, but who knows? So Webpack, Vimeo Player. I didn't think doesn't look like this is a good idea. Don't need globals, all concept behind Webpack is allow more modular front end. Shimming globals. First use case, shimming global variables. Global exports. Create a global variable. This way to use it. This is probably closer to what I should be doing. File parsers, helpers.parse. I'll just do it this way for now. Window.vimeo. Not sure if there's a more elegant way to do this, but whatever. Unnecessary label player. Really? Oh, there we go. Why, yes, it is. Module build fails, unexpected token. Great. Now it's good. All right, so it's finding the iframe correctly. It says 3 hidden. Which 3 are hidden? Not filtering anything. Wonder if this is some weird shadow DOM thing. So I get the iframe, but it's not the iframe that's actually in the Astrocasts video instance. Query selector all. And it only sees one of them. Iframe is not defined. There we go. Yeah. All right. So this is going to be annoying. So it is reporting progress, which is good. So 30 seconds in. I'm not sure why it's reporting these. Great success. Yeah. Thanks, Joe. Appreciate uh, the enthusiasm there. Create shadow DOM. Events. All right. Vimeo iframe. Vimeo Player shadow DOM. Wow. All right. How to craft your own custom components. Full screen mode. Look about how to craft your own custom components. So I was all excited about these web components things, but the shadow DOM definitely has been kind of a pain. And I really don't know anything at all about it. So let's see. It's powerful custom elements. Provides encapsulating by hiding DOM subtrees under shadow roots. You can use shadow DOM and custom elements like so. Mode open. Well, so when you call file bag in the browser, it's rendered like so. It's the markup behind the custom element of the roots. Browser renders have been used. Great. That was super useful. Is the shadow DOM where the hackers mine bitcoins? Yes. In fact, you get a tweet for that. Why can't I tap complete your name? It's annoying. Okay. It's your middle initial in your Twitter handle there that got me hooked. So videos, query selector.vimeo. Oh, hey, this is looking create and play. Ooh. Connect to callback lifecycle. Yeah, that's all fine and good, but Shadow down below. So this isn't actually using the SDK. They're generating the iframe programmatically rather than copying it in, which I guess makes sense. All right. So the way this works is we sync the shadow root, and then we start watching for changes to the size. So sync shadow root. While shadow root that first child, remove child, and then we clone the nodes. So we're actually cloning the iframe at that point. What I'm going to do is try to not clone and just use append child. So this should copy the iframe in by reference, which in theory could mean that the relationship between these two will be kept. But I want to say we had to clone that for some reason. So let's see first of all if this actually does something different. So let's go back to Astrocasts video and see if we get something here to the new player. So yeah, so I think that was the problem. As soon as you append the child, so this it essentially moves the node from where it had been before to the shadow root, which doesn't work. Which doesn't work here. The only other thing that we could potentially do is have the web component export access to its iframe or its children. How often does sync work? It's only called the first time. So what I think I could do is either provide a function. I think I can provide methods on them. Expose shadow. It's closed. Access the current script or current root for shadow DOM. Shadow DOM to external JS using document. Okay. think that's what I need. Shadow DOM found force, so window.shadow shady DOM force true. I don't know what shady DOM is. Using shadow DOM web components. Ooh, best practices. I'm sure those are good, right? Mimic built-in elements. Failing silently is golden. Attributes for data. All right, so we're doing that. Events for data out. Use custom events to pass information out of components, unless the information to pass is large or changes extremely often. Include dependencies. Put too much in shadow DOM, allows you to stuff a bunch of complex junk out of sight. Harmonize your performance. Be responsive. Testing. Script from the shadow DOM. Current script. Get root node. Basic usage, attach shadow. Simple example. Awesome. Creating the shadow DOM structure. Styling it. Ooh, that's interesting. Custom elements. Pop-up info. Okay, see also using templates and slots. I was looking at something here before. Placeholder inside a web component that you can fill with your own markup, which lets you create separate DOM trees presented together. Slot global, assign to slot, loadable. Webcomponents.org. I'm not reading a spec right now. All right, take care, Joe. Thanks for joining tonight. Use a webcomponent how to find a new HTML element. Component methods. Works, as you can see in the code sprint below. All right, so if instead of iframe, we get the Astrocast video, I don't think I shouldn't use a method to get data back out, but I don't know how to ensure that the function call comes back correctly. web components event. Custom dispatch events in response to internal component activity. Dispatch event. Do not dispatch events in response to the host setting a property. Okay, explainers. Properties lazy. Okay, property avoid reentrancy issues. Should we change callback? Custom checklist. All right, so this is a checkbox example. So constructor, pen child, content, clone node true, connected. Oh, no. Remove listener. So this creates new custom event. See if this works. Video edit on is not a function. All right, so I didn't do anything at all. Observed. On key up event, click. Dispatching an event in response to a host setting a privacy superfluous. dispatch. That is X custom. Add event listener kick. Okay. Let's try that instead. So on doesn't work. Add event listener does. Let's do this. On. Oh. No, that's not going to work. So let's do add event listener foo, console log foo. Let's see if this works. Video.add event listener is not a function. Why not? What's new in Shadow DOM? This is supposed to work as far as I can tell. Ah! There we go. So we're listening for foo. The foo doesn't actually happen. So how do we dispatch something here? Some dial dispatch. It's fired by fire. Dispatch event. We can just call that, apparently. Okay, so let's see here. So let's do sync shadow root, set up resize. event. Let's call it foo. Custom events. We create it as follows: new custom event, build, detail. That's a dictionary having the following fields: bubbles, cancelable, composed, dispatch event. Okay. How do I give it detail? More data to event object. The custom object interface exists. The above can be used to pass custom data. All right, so we'll do custom event. Detail. It's going to be shadow. Let's do. I'm going to move this temporarily into setup resize here. Detail, foo. Just so we can see if it does something different when we resize. No. Oh, that's setup resize with heights. We need to actually look at the resize method. There we go. Okay. So we actually get foo happening here, which is awesome. But we don't get it later because we are if we trigger the event later. No, so the problem is that the listener is set up long after the object is actually there. So we are adding the foo listener after the page has been set up. We don't necessarily have access at this point. So let's just double check to make sure that foo doesn't get called right away. Okay. So, no, let's let's go back to here and let's console.log here. And so here happens, we don't have a listener yet. I'd have an event listener, see old events. Event listener, do you want jQuery, events. All right, so let's do something different. So we can get the shadow root. Let's do with shadow and which is just super dirty as far as I'm concerned, but I'm going to allow it because why not? I've been spending too much time on this anyway, and I just need it working. So we have the video. Not going to do an add listener. Let's do video.withShadow function shadow. There we go. And then there we go. I suspect this is going to work, and I guess I'm just going to have to be okay with it being the way it is. I'm going to remove this. Yay! All right, so that works. The next step for the next session, I think, is probably going to be figuring out how to report this back to the model we created. But it looks like we should be just fine here. Let's double check again. Cool. So to recap, this was way more complicated than it should have been, mostly because of this shadow nonsense. So even though it looks like there's an iframe here, And even though we can actually query for it and get it, that's not the iframe that is actually being shown to people. And that is because what we're doing here, clone nodes. Let's make sure that this works if I clone again. Because what we're actually showing for the content of this element is the stuff on the shadow node, or the shadow root. So here, cloning it, play progress. Okay, cool. So we're still getting it even though, here we are, progress. And I think this means that we should even be able to set position. So I could even use this to set where people are at. So the basics, now we'll do reference, set position, get the playback position, we'll set the position, set current time. So we'll set this at 30 seconds. Just to mimic what this is going to do. So video query selector, video dot set current time. Actually needs to be in here. Player dot set current time and 30 seconds. So this is going to give us a whole lot of functionality if this actually works. Which it didn't. Did I do it wrong? So set current time. Returns a promise. If playback hasn't started yet, using this method starts playback. Ooh, if playback has started, using this method doesn't affect the playback state. Does pause remains paused. Player is paying. Let's see if it's doing a promise. To catch error. Interesting. I would have thought, well, it's not behaving like it says on here. So this says set current time. The miss method sets the current playback position in seconds. The player attempts to seek to as close as possible. The exact time comes back. So if playback hasn't started yet, which is true, using this method starts playback. Doesn't actually look like that's the case. So I don't know if that's, I'm not sure what's causing that behavior. However, when we actually click play, it does actually do that. I mean, it shows that it is actually at the right location. Let's do seek. Is there a different way? Set playback position of a video. Events seeked. Oh, maybe we have to wait until it fires when the new video is loaded in the player. Let's try that. Player.on. I don't want it to actually behave this way anyway, so I'm fine if it doesn't. But I would like it to actually update the screen to show where it would actually be in time. So loaded. If there's a ready method. Buffer and buffer start ended error loaded. Playback rate changed. All right, so get the ended state. With the load the video and immediately set current time. Actual behavior is 6 times worse when it's run from an on-click event, but not when executed immediately before load, immediately after load video. Steps to reproduce. The new player frame, parsent, blah blah blah. So player.load video. Then function video is successfully loaded. That's kind of annoying. Seems the issue with load video, nothing else works after load video, not even play. Set current time on a click event. So set video time, player.set time, play video player. So we trigger play in another function. Wow. Turn player.play. Let's see if we can do that. Player.play. Player.pause. See what happens here. All right, try this here. Hmm. Oh. So it looks like maybe player.play isn't working. Play a video. Methods. Certain mobile devices. Void, password error, privacy error, error. Hmm. So this is actually probably not something I can do anything with at all. So we are playing now, and then going to pause. So apparently this is due to the autoplay functionality. Uh, set auto pause false. You're not though. Try waiting for the current time promise to resolve. Load video, nothing else works. Just load video, not even play. Lack of conditions. Set current time on a click event. JavaScript start a newly loaded video at a specific time. Set current time. You may use the set current time X or X number of seconds before play the video. That if I want to load the video start playing at an instant 10 minutes. It will always start playing at the beginning for a fraction of a second. Even if the player is set to pause. As soon as I load a new video that I want to start playing at a specific time, it always loads. It's an issue where I'd like to start without having it autoplay. The docs say. Is there any way to achieve this functionality? To play, then pause, then change the start time. Oh, come on, really? Loaded. So it doesn't appear to work any better. So play, then pause, then set time. So loaded, play. not actually working. So play isn't actually being able to be driven here. So that's not actually doing anything. Player.play.then. Failed player.play. Huh. If I can get the autoplay. Here we go. Seconds 30, so set autopause false. possible fix is to delay the player.play call. All right, so player.onPlay, load video. Yeah, load gets called pretty early on. How long ago was this? This was not too long ago. So player.onPlay, player off play. What does off do? Remove an event listener from a player. Okay. Player on play. iframe. Player. Player.onPlay. Huh. It doesn't seem to be that easy though. All right, I'm gonna have to call this a night pretty soon here. So their new autoplay policy may be blocking the play method. So here, CodePen is probably working because it's past this threshold. The pre-existing player has an attribute allow autoplay encrypted media. So let's open. Awesome. Let's go ahead, set current time, dot then. player.pause. Six, 306, 306. So I think what it's doing there, let's see, progress. If playing no, let's not worry about that. Might be a better way to do that. It does do one progress, but just one. And then play, pause, pause. All right, so what we're going to do here is when the play event is triggered, we're going to wait at least, say, 5 seconds before we start considering it actually playing. So we'll set is playing equals to true at this point. Once we pause, we will set is playing to false immediately, and then we'll clear the timeout for playing so that this doesn't actually get triggered. I don't know if I have to reset this if play happens back to back. There we go. So essentially what we're doing is looking once it starts playing to set a timeout to say, okay, wait 5 seconds. If we haven't been cleared in that time, we'll set is playing to be true. And then anytime we pause, we're going to immediately clear the timeout if there is one. Well, even if there isn't one, I guess. Actually, I might just do that. And then set is playing to false. And by default, it's not going to assume that we're playing. So player on progress, it's going to look to see if it's been playing. So the earliest we should receive progress is if something has been playing for at least 5 seconds. So let's go ahead and see if that's actually what happens here. All right, so it's going to move to the right spot. It didn't actually start playing. It may have buffered some data. I think that was what was happening before, is that this progress bit here was being triggered even though it didn't actually play any video frames. So let's see here. Let's go ahead and click play. And then within probably about 5 seconds, we should start seeing our progress showing up here. There we go. So now we're starting to see progress. And then we would be able to be sending that down by API to let people know what's going on there, so that we could keep track of that information. And then if we pause and start again, we should wait another, it should be at least another 5 seconds before we see our first. All right, I think that was probably pretty close. Okay, cool. All right, so I'm going to call this good for now. So between Shadow DOM, yay, and using the cool Astrocasts video web component, and then actually defeating Chrome's autoplay blocking, I guess is what it was. I think we're good to go. It's behaving exactly like I would have wanted it to. There. Cool. All right, so this is more or less what I was hoping for. So let's go back to our list of things to do. So progress, we added the model. So that's there. We added the update Astrocast video so that it works. So we got that done. Now we need API call our API to report percentage, or to port percent. So what we'll be able to do now that we have this bit of code here is that in progress, this is where we're actually going to do this work. So send API call with, let's see, what does progress look like? I think it's a data.percent. Here we go. So progress. Data.percent. So we should be able to detect the user based on the user being logged in. And then we should be able to get the video ID as a part of the URL. So user plus video ID plus percent is exactly the bits that we need for our table, or our model. So if we go back to progress, we have video, user, and percent. So those are the only bits that we should actually need. The other thing that we'll have to do, of course, is bring the progress in for this session. So I think that might be a little tricky. This is where it might be interesting to have some like CQRS type things embedded here, because it would be great to have a video that is a copy of the video data, but also has user-specific information in it, so that we can do essentially video where video.user ID equals user get ID, to be able to pass that information in, and then video would have additional things like get percent or get progress percent, so that we could get that information directly without having to jump through some hoops. Because otherwise, right now, video has no way to get to the percent, mostly because that would be horribly inefficient, because you would also have to get the user ID at that point. So I'm not really sure what we're going to do with that. So this is definitely a case where it might be worthwhile building some CQRS things in so that we at least have a read model with this information, so that the object looks like a video, feels like a video, but actually has some of these extra bits in them. So we'll maybe take a look at that on Thursday, because I think that's probably the next step on this. Right now, we're doing set timeout 300, and then what we would want to do is essentially if, however we get this information, I guess this is a twig template, so if video.hasUser progress, then we will do this, and we will get this information from or the actual timeout from, we might actually keep the time as well. So I guess this would be has user progress, and we'll do user progress in seconds. So right now we only have the percentage, but we probably want to track the seconds as well. That's what I'm noticing now. Because we'd want to start exactly where the user is starting. So anyway, this is kind of the general idea of what we're going to be doing next to track this information. So I think that's it. Thank you all for joining. If you have any questions, send them my way on Twitter, or you can send me an email, beau@astrocasts.com, or you can join chat. I've seen a couple of people logged into the Twitch chat, but didn't actually say anything. So it's definitely more fun to be coding on this when there's people to be talking to, and answering questions and sharing ideas. Anyway, thank you very much, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow if you want to watch that podcast session. Otherwise, I'll be doing Astrocasts, working on bootstrapping Astrocasts again Thursday night. Thanks, and have a good day.